Hello, welcome back to The Road to Episode 9, my ongoing series where I chart the road to the release of Star Wars Episode 9 on December the 20th, 2017. And in this video I simply want to talk about Episode 9 and where I see it going, where I would like to see it going, and I would love to hear from you where you would like to see it go, or where you think it will go. It's kind of two very different things. So back with the road to Episode 8, I talked about what I think we're going to see with Episode 8, and my kind of prediction very briefly was that I thought we were going to see Luke and Rey in some kind of training, you know, teacher-mentor relationship, which we kind of got. And I thought we'd see Poe and Finn and BB-8 off on an adventure, kind of being chased down by the First Order, with Captain Phasma kind of being the forefront, and maybe Benicio del Toro playing some kind of bounty hunter character who's also thrown into the mix as another villain. And then, of course, Kylo and Snoke, and Kylo kind of dealing with the death of his father, or the murder of his father at his own hands, and kind of being just racked with guilt over it, and trying to kind of push forward and become his own thing, but kind of struggling underneath Snoke. And then Rey and Luke's paths would converge with Kylo and Snoke at the end of the film, and there'd be some kind of battle sequence as well between the First Order and the Resistance. It wasn't half wrong, but it's a fairly kind of general kind of prediction. I didn't have any kind of particular beats like, oh, this is going to happen, or this is going to be this. You know, I just, that's the general way I thought the film would go. Didn't really consider the bigger picture as far as the First Order chasing down like the entire Resistance and all that kind of stuff that we did see in The Last Jedi. Episode 9, I really, I have a good idea, I suppose, but there's lots of ways I can go with it. With Episode 7 to Episode 8, we had something we'd never seen before, which is a direct continuation. Every other Star Wars episode has had at least a few years between them, or at least a couple of years. There's still hazy between how much time passes between Episode 5 and Episode 6, I think. Anyway, that's a whole other topic of conversation. But, you know, with Episode 2 and 3, I think there's like a 10-year gap. So, are we going to see one for Episode 9? I think we have to. Number one, Carrie Fisher's passing, Princess Leia no longer being around as a character that can viably be put in the movie. I mean, of course, there's things you can do, like recasting. I think that'd be a terrible idea. And obviously, she survives until the end of The Last Jedi. What I would like is that, obviously, they're going to jump ahead. They have to jump ahead at least a few years, I feel like. Or at least a year. There needs to be some time that passes, because the whole idea of the end of The Last Jedi is that hope has been restored to the galaxy by what Luke did, and that has sparked this kind of this new revolution, basically, and that's what's going to be the domino effect that will hopefully give us in Episode 9 a renewed resistance. And I wonder, because Luke said in The Last Jedi, you know, the rebellion is reborn today. You know, we might see it not be called the Resistance, it's the New Rebellion. You know, and people have kind of finally answered the call that they left unanswered at the end of The Last Jedi, where they didn't come and help the Resistance. They didn't even answer the distress signal. Episode 9, we could see this new rebellion facing off against the First Order in more of a fair fight. You know, they're not backpedaling, they're not the underdogs. Well, they're still the underdogs, of course, when they have to be, but, you know, in The Last Jedi, there was literally just like the dregs of the Resistance, and then all of the First Order chasing them down, you know. So there needs to be a rebuilding of the Resistance, of the Rebellion, whatever you want to call it. So there needs to be some time that passes. And also I think it would be nice to kind of, if not reference it in the crawl, at least open the movie with the, not even an announcement, but, you know, you understand at the beginning of the movie that Leia is gone, that she passed away. I mean, you could do it where she died in battle, or you could do it where she just died. She passed away in her sleep or whatever. But I love the idea, from a story perspective, that following The Last Jedi, they begin to rebuild the Resistance. I mean, you know, Rey says at the end, how can we rebuild things, you know, with this? And Leia's like, we have everything we need, because we have that hope. And I would love to think that they rebuild the Resistance, but also that Rey is mentored by Leia. I would love, you know, again, the idea of Rey as a character in Episode 9 having been molded by the leadership and friendship and mentorship of Leia. And not so much in the Force, but in just the act of being a leader. You know, I'd love to see Rey in more of a leader role that she seems destined to kind of slot into. And like I say, it just would be nice, I think. So not to say that, oh, she died after the end of the Last Jedi, but to say that, yeah, she was around for a couple more years and was very instrumental in kind of making Rey the person she is when we see her in Episode 9, who will no doubt still be conflicted over the situation with Kylo and Ben, Kylo/Ben, there's two different people. and that's where I feel like the absolute beating heart of the movie is going to be, much like it was in The Last Jedi, that central relationship between Kylo Ren and Rey, and where their destinies are going to converge once again at the end, surely, of Episode 9. That'll be the big showdown, and where it goes from there, I have no idea. I'm not sure where they're going to go. There's many ways they can go. Will they redeem Kylo? Will they not? You know, do you feel like he should be redeemed? You know, do you feel like it'd be too close to Return of the Jedi? I feel like it's going to be impossible to avoid the comparisons, because there has to be a big battle. There has to be a big kind of save the galaxy moment, and that's going to have to involve the First Order against the Resistance, smashing on in this huge climactic, you know, like hour-long, like we got in Return of the Jedi, or in Rogue One, just like a huge kind of 45-minute long battle sequence that cuts back to a more intimate and emotionally charged confrontation between Rey and Kylo Ren. Will they introduce more characters that become instrumental to the overall plot, you know? Will Rose and Finn develop something? There's people thinking that Poe and Rey are going to develop a romance. I don't think that's going to happen, and I don't think any romance is really going to spark, which is interesting because each trilogy has that romance. We have Anakin and Padme, we have Han and Leia, and in this trilogy we have nothing, really. You can kind of look into Rey and Kylo Ren having some sort of romantic tension between them. I don't really see that too much. I can see why people do see it. And maybe they will go that route. Maybe that will be the thing. And it certainly would be something we'd never seen before. The romantic relationship being between these two Force users, I suppose you could call them. And where that would lead, you know, if she does need to cut him down, basically, but she loves him. I mean, that could work. But I don't see it as too much of a romantic relationship. It's more of this kind of two people who have never really had a strong connection with someone before. And Rey certainly begins to form that with Finn before they get separated at the end of The Force Awakens. And with Kylo, it's the most intimacy she's ever felt with someone. And I don't see that as a sexual thing. I see it more as just this interperson relationship, you know, someone who you can confide in, you know, which she does at one point in The Last Jedi, even though it's an incredibly fucked up situation with the fact that she's confiding in this murderer, you know. So there's so many ways they can go with it. But and also with Kylo, I mean, we could see a new look for him. We could see him go back to the mask, or creating a different mask, or we could see him having a completely different look altogether. You know, let the past die. But not even just the look, but the you know, his place and everything. You know, the Supreme Leader, Kylo Ren. He's going to be, you know, the head of the First Order. Will it? I mean, they could change it. It might be something completely different. It wouldn't be called the First Order. He could repurpose things and kind of rebuild it in his own image and kind of fully free himself. I mean, maybe like something really radical where there aren't stormtroopers in Episode 9, and it's a new brand of kind of soldiers that he's created. But of course we have General Hux, and I'm sure that'll play into Episode 9, and their kind of I love the kind of Hux and Kylo dynamic, where in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi they were kind of these kind of you know, almost like these two sons who are kind of vying for the attention of their father. You know, there's very kind of tempestuous relationship between the two of them, and I'll be intrigued to see to what degree that plays out in Episode 9. Not too much, you know, it's a minor thing, you know, in both films, although more so I think in The Last Jedi. But Hux, I like Hux. I kind of enjoy, I appreciate his kind of over-the-top Britishness, you know, that kind of trope of the bad guys being these, you know, stiff kind of British accented, you know, officers and so on. Anyway, so Kylo Ren, you know, there's a lot of ways they can go with his character, and I would like it if they kept his look now, but there was concept art in the Art of the Last Jedi book where they had Kylo bald, and it looked terrible because Adam Driver's got these monkey ears, you know. It looks almost like Nosferatu, actually. I think it would be really jarring if they did that, but hey, you know, maybe if they want to completely push the envelope and you really would have this kind of triptych in terms of Kylo Ren across the trilogy of that guy in the mask that we saw in 7, the scarred face and unmasked, and just the raw kind of exposure of his soul in The Last Jedi, and then something not completely different, but a different shade of that in Episode 9. Really intrigued to see where they go with it and so on, but I don't have any big predictions, you know. Oh yeah, of course, you know, Kylo's going to be redeemed. Yes, Rey's going to kill him. I don't know. But it's definitely going to be the Return of the Jedi kind of syndrome, because with the prequels it had the advantage of being different because, one, George Lucas was doing all this weird stuff, but also Revenge of the Sith had to end with a really bad kind of down ending where the Jedi get killed and the bad guys win. So Return of the Jedi and Revenge of the Sith are two very different films that have two very different endings to each of their respective trilogies, but the sequel trilogy, it kind of has to end the same way Return of the Jedi did, with the heroes winning, the galaxy saved, and hope has been restored again. So how do you avoid it kind of being the same with Rey being the next New Hope? And then like episode 10 in 20 years is, you know, new heroes finding Rey off on an island where she's withdrawn herself because she failed as a Jedi. And you know, what do they do? Do they stick to a kind of template that will no doubt kind of inspire criticism that, oh, it's a Return of the Jedi remake, and just try and make that the best possible film they can? Or do they try and do something different and maybe to the point of it not working? I don't know. So, and I'm also really intrigued to see if the backlash from The Last Jedi is going to inform the way 9 plays out, if they're going to play it quote-unquote safer. Because I really feel like The Last Jedi took some risks, and I would love to see those risks continue. I would love to sit there in the cinema in 2 years and go, oh wow, they did that, like I did with The Last Jedi, you know. But we'll see. I certainly feel like a lot has been set up, and there's so many ways you can go with it. You know, I feel like the future is going to wide open for this film, and I'm really excited to see the possibilities that could unfold. Hell, maybe even like 5 years into the future, 10 years into a 10-year gap, you know, where the Resistance is fully reformed and maybe Rey is training new Jedi. But I think that is probably too big of a leap, you know. But certainly I feel like a few years at least needs to be kind of space between the two films. Kylo needs to be this in a new position, you know, where he still has that kind of, that loose cannon energy to him, but he maybe has cemented himself more as a stable kind of leader of this evil, you know, First Order. And Rey, you know, I feel like they need to both mature a little bit before they meet again, to kind of change the dynamic just a little bit, you know. But yeah, I mean, that whole scene at the end of The Last Jedi, when, well, their last scene together, when, you know, she's like, don't do this, don't go this way, it feels like a breakup, you know, it feels like someone ending a long-term relationship almost. So, you know, you're going to basically see these exes coming back together in episode 9 and facing each other again. It's going to be very raw, I feel like. So yeah, anyway, right, so not too much more to add really. I don't have any predictions or anything like that, but where I see it going is wide open, and I'm excited about that. So leave your thoughts down below where you would like to see it go, or where you think you'll see it going. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.